Arlington.
Representative Turner, thanks for being here this morning.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So, Representative, the governor says he has the votes necessary to pass his school choice plan. Of course, that's, if you look at what happened last session, he thinks he has the votes. Does he have the votes? And if so, how do you roll that back?
Yeah, well, it remains to be seen. What happened last session isn't necessarily completely predictive of what happens in the next legislative session. And I would remind the governor that we still have the November general election in front of us. And there are several districts around the state that are competitive. And I think that certainly public education is going to be at the forefront of those campaigns. And so when you have pro-public education Democrats running against pro-voucher Republicans who want to take money out of our public schools, that's going to resonate with voters. So this battle is far from over. The governor had some success in his primaries and runoffs, but that's not the whole story.
As you know, during the past redistricting process, the legislative boundaries were drawn pretty much to protect incumbents on both sides. So where do you see, specifically, where do you see opportunities to flip seats?
Yeah, well, and I would add that the boundaries were drawn by Republicans to artificially inflate their majority, and was done so in a racially discriminatory way around the state, and that's still the subject of litigation in federal courts. But look, I think we know that there are at least two competitive districts in Bexar County in San Antonio, ironically including one district where Abbott went after the incumbent Republican and replaced him as a nominee.
This is Steve Allison.
That's correct. That's correct. And so we see an opportunity there. There's a couple of seats here in the North Texas area where I think Colin Allred is going to run very, very strong in the U.S. Senate race. I think that's
Angie Chen Biden's in Garland.
Yeah, I think in Dallas County.
And Maureen
right.
Meyer in University Park.
That's right.
Okay, right.
And I think in South Texas there's opportunities as well. So again, there's a number of close districts around the state, and so I think that's going to play into what happens in the next legislative session in a lot of different ways.
So 76, 77 votes Governor Abbott says he has now. You think that how confident are you that you'll be able to knock off one or two Republicans?
Look, I don't make election predictions. I think that everyone should just go out and work as hard as they can in their respective races. But I would also say this, that the bill that was voted on last time, we know it didn't pass. We don't know what the next bill looks like. We haven't seen any legislation filed. So I think it would also be a mistake to assume that everyone who voted for that bill in that special session last year is automatically a yes vote on this bill, as we don't know what the bill looks like. So there's a lot of factors still in play here.
Have you heard from any Republicans that may be joining you in opposition to this bill?
Well, we know there's a number of Republicans who voted against vouchers last year that are still, I assume, opposed to vouchers, who are returning to the House, that the governor was not successful.
Fewer, though.
Absolutely, fewer. He had some success defeating some Republicans. There's no doubt about that. I would add, however, in races where he was successful, it seemed like they campaigned on other issues besides vouchers and education to make their point, which speaks to the fact that vouchers are not widely popular in this state. And I still think that's the biggest problem for voucher supporters, is they don't have a good product to sell.
Now, there will be a speaker's race. Republicans are hoping to pick the next speaker in their caucus. But is there an opportunity for Democrats to weigh in on this process?
No, absolutely. There will definitely be an opportunity for Democrats.
So what's your strategy?
Well, look, in modern times, we have never elected a Speaker of the House without bipartisan support. And I remember when Joe Straus retired several years ago, there was chatter in the Republican caucus that we're going to elect the Speaker from within the Republican caucus. Well, guess what? The next Speaker, Dennis Miles, was elected with bipartisan support, as was Dade Phelan. The next Speaker is going to be elected with bipartisan support. And so, some of the Republicans who are saying this can say that all they want, but the reality is you have to get 76 votes on the floor. You can't do that without bipartisan support.
So a Speaker candidate comes to you and says, I want your support, and you say, in exchange for?
Well, there's laws about those kinds of conversations. So, but what I would say though is what we want in a speaker, what I want to see in a speaker, and I think most of my colleagues would agree with this, is someone who lets the House operate fairly, gives every member the opportunity to a fair chance to pass legislation, to have an impact on legislation, and knowing that sometimes things don't go your way, but you have an opportunity at least. That's what you want in a speaker.
How important is it to have Democrats as chairs to you?
It's important. I would say that it is one piece of an overall picture which speaks to the fact that Democrats need to continue to have the ability to influence policy. Being chairs is part of that. Being able to pass bills is part of that. Being able to have an impact on the appropriations process is part of that. So it's one piece, but it is important.
Representative Turner, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.